foreignfilmcast.com. Welcome to the Foreign Filmcast, episode 1. Or, taking a cue from Andy Anatko, episode 00001.
Where was that from?
I'm Jonathan. I'm here with my friends Beatrice, a.k.a. Trace, and Paul. I guess she hates the Beatrice, sorry.
The Trace?
We grew up with Beatrice, and so we miss her. But Trace is here.
Hey, kids.
I did a search and for foreign film web podcast. Couldn't find too many, so I thought maybe we could fill a niche. So here we are. We just seen Rag and Bone.
Rust and Bone.
So I think that's a White Stripes song.
No, Rag and Bone is the clothing line.
Rag and Bone, Rag and Bone.
No, that's just Jonathan's fashionista coming out.
No, it really is a
shops
song.
at Rag and Bone.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
Thankfully, other people know better than I do. We did not see Rag and Bone. So, I just a little background. I've liked foreign movies for quite a while. I grew up with a mother who's a Bolivian immigrant, so she spoke Spanish with my grandparents. But what I always thought was even cooler was the French. When I was probably 9 years old, we had a French-speaking girl from Switzerland come over, and greetings, Anne-Laure. She may be listening now in the UK. She lives in the UK now. And I always thought this French language was amazing. And then I was initially jealous of her what they call bande dessinée, which are comic books. They just seem to have a lot more comic books, like Disney comic books, and then Tintin, and they just seemed better than. All we had were the superhero ones, and they had like hardcover, huge page. They were a lot more artistic and creative, and then I think the first French movie I saw was The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I probably didn't think that much of it initially, but a few years later I saw Jean de Florette, and then Manon des Sources, and I thought these were pretty cool. I thought this is drama in a way I hadn't often seen it in American movies, and I'm sure that just the foreignness made it cooler. But I was kind of into it after that. And when I was 12 years old, I got to spend a whole summer in the South with Anne-Laure's family, the Koopmans, and. Anyway, so I've been a big fan, and after college, I got a chance to spend more time in France as well as in Spain. So I do speak Spanish and French. So that's.
And you took it in high school.
Yeah, I did. Paul and Beatrice, they also are. Trace. They both speak Spanish, and they both have studied some French. Anyway, so we're going to start out with some spoiler-free commentary. But to really discuss this movie, I think you're going to have to get to the spoiler section. So spoiler section for those who just maybe don't ever want to see it and just want to get spoiled. Or maybe you've seen it and want a little discussion. Beatrice, what did you think of this movie?
Well, it's really not for the romantics out there. There's no romanticism about this movie at all. Like the movie title, says it's rust and bone. Basically, cuts straight to the bone of the characters, and it's very grim. And I believe in Jonathan's childhood, growing up and watching French culture films and immersing himself in the French culture, it really says that it speaks to the fact that it's a no frills movie. There's no special effects, right?
Very few.
Very few special effects.
Maybe few in number. They're not glamorous special effects. They're kind of very subtle, and I think you don't notice them much at all unless you look for them.
Yeah, so it really cuts down to the bone of the character of the movie. No romanticism. It's not a fairy tale here, so I don't recommend it for those people that are into the like for example, the French Kiss. It's not a rom-com. It's more like to the liking of The Fighter and more recently The Wrestler. So it's quite grim.
So did you like it for you?
Not really.
Not really. Okay,
It's
Paul.
not my cup of tea.
All right, we'll move into Paul.
Okay.
Did Paul? I think he liked it a little more than that. I don't know. How did you feel?
It was interesting because there's some funny parts, but it's not,
Oh yeah.
it's not romantic.
So Paul, can you tell us the funny parts without spoiling, or are we gonna have to wait?
Funny parts? Oh, please do tell.
Wow, the guy, the character, the protagonist, and I don't know his.
Forgot the guy's name.
None of us know the guy's name. It's pretty sad.
I forgot his name, but
Well, he's such a hound dog.
he played a good role. We all thought his acting was great, but he played such a dog that
He ain't nothing but a hound dog.
some of the things he did just made you crack up, like
Okay, because they were unexpected.
unexpected.
Probably-
Or
he's-
he's so. It's always to the lowest common
He's very frank.
He's a brute.
He's a brute. He's a friend. Yeah.
He's a bastard, a brute,
Anyway,
a dog.
let me go on. I think the movie is more. It's it's like the minimalist, like Jonathan was saying, or it's more about trying to see.
Okay, well, I do have. Okay, just think we're gonna admit right here that we tried recording earlier and failed. This is take 2, so that's what he means recording earlier.
Hopefully
Back to Paul.
it comes through.
Okay. Anyway, so it's a minimalist, and it's also. Let's see.
Okay,
It's
so
the French culture at its grittiest in the lower economic area.
Very blue collar.
Blue collar area, and so it shows how people are trying to make ends meet by all sorts of things. They're trying to. There's this thing against the man, the big business people trying to ruin the small people's lives. So there's that struggle against the rich a little bit. It's subtle.
all right. Let me ask you this:
Undertones there.
knowing what you know now, would you go see the movie? I mean, not like you see it again, but knowing how you'd feel about it, would you recommend it to your twin self or not really?
I think it's interesting for me, to see French culture, I think that they're trying to portray it themselves in a certain, the society in a certain way, this movie. And
Okay. So you're saying the value in it is probably
it's more like a sociological one.
Okay.
And also, I do think there is at the end, there's this thing where people are trying to survive, and they kind of pick each other up by doing things to help each other out. And they kind of, at the end, come on top in some sort of way,
Okay. Again, so
without spoiling the
plot.
The plot, yeah.
All right, so I'm kind of lukewarm on the movie. I think it's a movie for mainly for people that really like to watch most of the indie films that have any buzz. This has had quite a bit of talk about it.
It won the Palme d'Or.
The acting, as in recording one, I do feel the acting is a strong point, and I think that's that's been one of the reasons that there's been buzz, is because Marion Cotillard's does a fantastic job.
Blows you out of the water.
But the story, the story didn't have as great an effect on me as it might have, mainly I think because, I said earlier, this is not a guy that I'd care to spend much time with. it was hard for me to care about him a lot. I had some sympathy, but then the sympathy kind of goes away because he's kind of an ass.
Ain't nothing but a hound dog.
At the very end, I feel he did have a metamorphosis that some redemption that made me care about him more. But that was just the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So I would recommend this only to a very select audience. If you want to see every French movie you can, this is for you. If you like being up to snuff on the current indie stuff, this is for you. But this is clearly not a mainstream audience thing.
It's definitely not a tentpole. Definitely not.
Yeah, this is no Amélie.
Yeah, no Amélie, no French Kiss.
Well, it's not artistic in any way.
There's no artistic merit other than basically, like I said, their characters. And I think maybe that's, serves its purpose to a point. It strips the film from all the magic that you see. It's really raw. You don't. There's no escapism in this movie at all.
All right, so we're gonna get to spoilers just in a second, but I think I realized we haven't given much of an idea. Let me just try to give a 2-minute summary. I might get a little help on this.
Yeah.
Starts out. I'm gonna spoil the first few minutes. Starts out with this guy, probably about 30-ish years old. He's got a kid. He's with his kid. Looks like he's trying to hitch rides. Then he ends up on the train. His kid says he's hungry. I think he says it twice at least. It's clear that the guy doesn't really have cash, because the next thing you know, he's scrounging around the train, grabbing whatever leftover food he can find for the kid. They end up going to the guy's sister's place. Because clearly the guy's down on his luck and he needs some help. And then it's immediately clear that she's not doing so well financially either. In the initial encounter with his brother-in-law, they discuss that she works at a grocery store and she brings home expired yogurt and other foods she's basically snatching them after they're expired and taking them home. So they're not doing so well financially, and they try to make a little extra buck by taking care of some dogs for a breeder, so he's there trying to get by, and soon you talk about this guy's got some experience fighting. Sounds like he hasn't really been fighting lately, but he used to have a trainer and did do some fighting in Belgium, and was, let's say, a contender. Probably not an A-list guy, but he's a rough guy and he can hold his own. We see him getting a job as a bouncer, security work, and then we see kind of the first time he has an encounter with Marion Cotillard is there's a bar fight, and Marion Cotillard is involved. She gets some injury. He ends up taking her home, giving her a ride home, where he has an encounter with her boyfriend. So we wonder why is she out alone? Why did she not go with her boyfriend? And basically something. The interaction's pretty brief. I didn't think that she would ever. Trace may disagree, but I didn't. My impression initially was that she was never going to call this guy. He mentions as he leaves. He's gone up to her place just to get some ice for his hands because he's been involved in the fighting, and there's no romance between them. There may be attraction, but he says, I left my number if you ever want to call, and I'm thinking she'll never call, but something happens, and I think that's what makes her call.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, it's pretty clear that these are kind of people coming from different sides of the tracks. She's working at Marineland. She's involved in the shows.
Training orca.
Yeah, she trains the whales and involved in the performances, and clearly not as down on her luck as financially as he is. And then later on, we see that she's got a little more class, a little more moral value than he does, and I think she lifts him up, but he also does the same. So I think it's time for spoilers. So 1, 2, 3, spoil. Yeah, if anybody in the LA area, that's our version of Love Line. All right, so the horrible thing that happens to Marion Cotillard is she's doing her performance at Marineland, doing her little, not much dancing, a little dancing, and the killer whales jumps up, bashes the platform. She probably bashes her. We have an underwater view up and see her silhouette against the sky, and we see blood. And soon after that, there's a hospital scene, and she wakes up. And to her surprise, she's got amputation just above the knee, bilaterally, both sides. So she's pretty miserable. I mean, she's.
When you lost your 2 legs?
She's used to, she works out of doors. She's not an office chick, and suddenly she's not only alone, but alone and without her legs, and she's pretty depressed. And and one day she calls him. So my feeling was that she's just got nothing going for her, or she feels like she's got nothing going for her, and she's like, what the hell, I might as well call this guy. He liked me, he left his number. I don't think she was going to call him otherwise. Yeah. If she'd kept her legs, I don't think she ever would have called him.
Yeah. I disagree.
Okay, well, why is that?
Well, obviously, this guy is a hound dog, a brute. Okay, fine. He meets her on his first encounter, on his first night at the gig, right? There's a brawl. She gets punched in the nose, and in something, I guess, because when he sees her down on the ground, I think he takes pity on her, or he sees maybe something of himself in her that, she pretty much got her ass kicked. All right, that's just, she's bleeding. He lifts her up. He chases after her. I mean, as a bouncer, your first night on the gig, she's okay, you get her out of there. This guy goes above and beyond.
No.
Makes
well, I agree that he likes her. I just don't think she likes him.
Yeah.
I'll agree.
I don't think she was ever going to call him. And to support that, why did she wait so long? Like, girl,
well,
you don't wait.
She was laid up, baby. She was laid up, and she wasn't.
No, it wasn't the next day.
It took her months.
My impression wasn't it wasn't the next day. She
took months to call him after her accident because she was laid up, depressed, convalescent.
Well, I could be wrong, but my impression was that a couple weeks passed between the bar. I don't think that she went back to work.
Why did she save his number if she had no intent on calling her? Oh, there's this really annoying scene.
Okay, save the number.
When they're in the kitchen and he goes and he's saying his farewell after he got his hand iced and everything. Yeah. He goes, you have my number, if you need me, you just call me. And she gives him this look like, I don't know, like, don't count on it, but at the same time, maybe. Because, she's got this relationship.
I thought the look was the WTF look, but that's just my opinion. What did you think, Paul?
I thought that look was kind of surprised that he would say that in front of her supposed boyfriend.
Simon, which she never even introduces.
All right, so you're voting for was...
I think kind of shocked that he has balls. I think.
Right.
He definitely has balls.
Yeah. I think that... But I agree. I don't think she would be interested in him.
Oh.
Okay.
He's a hound dog. He's a bouncer.
Yeah, but she needed a friend.
Okay. All right, well, we agree to disagree.
Mel here. Sorry, go on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, clearly she goes. I mean, that's another thing that gave me the feeling that she was down on her luck, and that was the only reason she was interested. Is because she describes. There's one scene where they both kind of describe their sexual, romantic relationships, right?
What scene is
Okay, there's a scene where he describes that he has casual sex. He's describing this to her. And she says, what? It's just sex? And he says, yeah. And he's very frank about it.
I mean, this is the nightclub scene when he ditches her? Is that, and then...
No, they're having a discussion.
It was before that.
The OP, when he calls himself an OP?
No.
What?
It was before that. It was around then. It was a little bit before that.
Anyway, so she describes what her love life's been like, and she says, I've been with
A couple guys.
No, she just says, I've been with this one guy. There were others. And then she also
just get bored with him.
Yeah, she said that. And then she said that she enjoyed just being at the bar, the club, and having them, be attracted and yeah. So they do they do have sex, and yeah, like you said, it's not romantic at all. In fact, she doesn't want to kiss, right? I mean, that's like Pretty Woman style, right?
Like a prostitute.
Exactly.
Like a prostitute.
Don't kiss me; it's too personal.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe
Just
it's
like a
French.
prostitute.
Maybe it's a French thing.
Yeah, he's deadpan, straight up. He basically says, "Do you want to have sex?"
Yeah.
And that's putting it nicely.
And she's completely blown away, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, you want to see if things working down there." And
Nothing but a hound dog.
and again, I feel like she goes for it just because there's nobody else.
What else does she have to lose, too? And she's just lost her legs. And I think this is a turning point in the relationship. It's not only, it was a very subpar performance there. The sex scene was like not romantic, not sexy. It wasn't inspiring in any way, shape, or form. It was just going through the motions. But it reawakened her because her character changed. She snapped out of her depression. And this is when they became a little bit more friendly. And then the relationship evolved. So
That's when he told her he'd be your OP.
All right, he has this code. He calls I don't know.
Operation what?
The subtitles translated as OP. I forget. I didn't catch it in French, but what would it stand for? Do you remember?
Operation something?
Operational and basically available or something like that. Like basically, I'm ready to have sex when you give me the code. When you give me the word.
It's basically OP is the code for no strings attached.
I guess something like that.
commitment.
Yeah.
That's a booty call.
All right. There is more. So he does make money doing these fights, and people bet on the fights, and
There's street
But
fights.
she wants to watch.
yeah, she enjoys. She does like watching. And then there's that one scene where he is usually he wins, but there's that one scene where he's about to get his ass kicked, and she comes out hobbling on her prosthetic legs,
She just
and
refreshed her prosthetic legs.
he feels inspired and kicks the other guy's ass in response.
That's the second fight, yeah.
I thought initially that she would go to one fight, and I thought normally, realistically, this character is going to watch one fight and be like, I'm never going to watch this again. So I think it was a slight stretch for the movie that at one point the guy who's coordinating the bets for this guy, who's kind of the guy's underground manager for these fights, says, I'm leaving town, and tells Marion Cotillard, you're taking over, and here's all you got to know. Can you count on your fingers? Blah, blah, blah. I think it's a little stretch.
It sounds kind of silly.
And then there was that other source of income the guy has, in which the guy who arranges for the fights also makes money by setting up video cameras at different commercial areas of business. Basically to have record of any case in which the employees are breaking rules, giving them excuses to fire them if needed. And then this backfires when our protagonist's sister is caught stealing the expired goods. Pretty low level crime.
And of course, in this instance, he's about to kick a woman's butt. One of the reporters that's there reporting, because it's like a big expose. Basically, the sister is like a cashier at some place that's like an equivalent of a Costco or a Walmart. It's a pretty big corporation. And so this little spy cams in the store basically, catches her, calls her out, but at the same time, he gets into a scuffle with one of the reporters, and it turns out that, people find out that he is the brother of one of the cashiers, his sister. So not only does the sister get canned, but it's basically the crux of the story.
Yeah,
Right, it's like the commercials where the drunk driver kills his parents, right?
Oh.
I think that goes back to the whole thing about there's this, I guess, unknown class of people that are trying to exploit the little French people.
Right.
And that they're
like
using cameras to catch them in acts of...
Right.
And I guess the unions are pretty strong there, so they can't just fire you.
Right, you need video
You have
evidence.
to catch them in the act to can them. And so that's the kind of stuff they're resorting to. And then they're getting the little people putting up the cameras in trouble.
Yeah.
For,
It's basically a dog-eat-dog world.
Right. So after that happens, there's a big tiff between sister and brother, and says you're out, and our protagonist then leaves, leaving the kid behind, and heads north to where is it? Alsace. It's Alsace, right?
Oslo, Poland.
Strasbourg?
Yeah, Strasbourg.
In the snow.
So he goes there to start training for fighting. I thought it was a little unrealistic that he would just never call the girl again. I know he was shocked, but I didn't think it was such a big thing that, maybe 4 days later,
Even
7
she
days
was shocked.
later.
Right. Even she was shocked. She goes, I knew he was bad, but I didn't think he'd just walk out, and especially just leave his son. Although they had a fractured relationship,
Well, I bought that more easily. I totally saw him leaving the kid.
Oh no.
Because he'd done it before, right? He left the kid with his mom to traffic drugs. Why wouldn't he leave him now in a better situation, right?
I guess, or nominally better.
But it's a lot less investment just to call the girl, text her, OP.
Yeah, there wasn't any OP going to happen if he's in Strasbourg and she's in God knows where.
That's true, but I think they'd already established that their relationship had gone beyond the OP.
Yeah, absolutely. But there was still no attachment. He had no commitments. He had nothing to offer her. Basically, it was just a sexual.
I didn't feel. Did you buy it? Did you think that went with the flow, or Paul?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of surprised that he... At first I thought he was going to go to her.
Yeah, me too.
And...
All right, so he's training. He seems to be doing all right, and then he gets a visit from brother-in-law, right?
Well, I guess they planned this visit with the son and
yeah, his son comes to visit for maybe a day, and they're playing around in the snow. Then they play on the ice, and you kind of you knew that something had to happen. And then the interesting thing that I didn't realize is that scene where the kid goes under the ice is the same as the opening scene, right?
Right. But see, that confused me a little bit too, because I thought the opening scene was the scene when Olga took her under.
Oh.
But it could be both. And there might be a tie-in right there.
Just the colors and the
water.
The look of it seemed to be the same. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. But you're right. I didn't know if
it was Orca.
Which one was the
or the kid?
But at the end, what they're talking about, how when you break your hand,
Oh, you mean about
Because it never heals completely.
Oh, they're saying once you break your hand, once a fighter breaks his hand, it never heals completely.
Yeah.
And they were saying this one part about you have how many bones in your body, and you have how many bones. You have how many bones do you have? Jonathan, how many bones? Do you have?
I don't remember.
They said 27 in a human
27 in your
hand.
hand. And
Oh, that sounds right.
If you break one, they never all completely heal, and the pain's always there, and it comes back in the cold weather.
Right. So the guy starts punching, looking for his kid, which I thought was a little unrealistic. I thought for sure he'd jump into the water, but instead he starts scraping the snow away to like look through the ice
Find the kid.
and listen. He tries to listen, doesn't he?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know.
That seems a little crazy to me, but anyway, he finds him, and then he starts punching at the ice, and he eventually breaks it. So that's kind of
But he also fractures his hand
and the kid makes it, and
after being in a coma.
and I thought it was an odd coincidence that just when that happens is when. What do you think happened? I'm thinking that maybe because something serious happened to his kid, the sister then runs over to Marion Cotillard and says, "Look, something serious has happened. I think I should tell you, and I think you should maybe try calling him." I don't think it was a coincidence that she randomly chose that moment to call.
What's going on?
Yeah, I think that the brother-in-law kept her in touch with what's going on.
Yeah, after he built town, I think we get the feeling that he's only in touch with the brother-in-law, and the only reason he's in touch. Hold on, the only reason he gets in touch is because he wants to have some sort of contact of lying with his kid, because that's when they arrange the outing, and the brother-in-law drives the kid from France or Paris, wherever they're at, to Strasbourg into that truck. Remember?
Well, something interesting happens when he's on the phone with Marion Cotillard, when his kid's now out of the coma.
Yeah.
And she says, she calls, she's very curt, and after a, short exchange, she's like, I'll talk to you later.
Well, that's the way he was. He was always like, whatever.
But what he does that he hasn't done, I think, in the most of the rest of the movie is
Finally just
he says he admits that he's vulnerable and he needs her.
And not only that, but he says, "I love you."
Well,
The first time ever.
Finally.
She says, "Don't leave me," and she says, "I won't."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Je t'aime."
Well, he was telling her what, that his son was
Who was in
a
a
coma for 3 hours,
basically
and,
dead. Thought he'd lost him.
right.
And then
He was breaking down,
Yeah.
confessing all his angst.
Well, that's the first time you actually see him break down and be human, not a brute, not
yeah.
a dog.
Be a dog.
He actually right there's a turning point in his character, and you see a little bit of the redemption that comes later on. You see it starting to peak and shine through right at
Well, I think he was already broke. He already did.
So I like the redemption. I just needed the redemption to maybe be 40% of the film instead of 10 or 15%.
Not even 15, no. I'd say maybe 5% of the film, because it came at 10 minutes till the end of the film.
The special effects, the amputation special effects, I think were very strong. There were a few scenes where I thought maybe I saw like that blue screen sharp look where it didn't quite look realistic, but
Where?
almost.
What scenes? In the ocean?
I can't remember, but for the most part, it's pretty strong.
Legs?
And the fights, I thought that was well shot. It doesn't look fake.
Yeah.
No, man, that was a street fighter I'd never seen.
Those are real.
Those are real
pretty-
fights.
And the ice scenes.
The ice,
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff was pretty good. And the acting was strong.
Yeah, no effects.
Acting was good.
Yeah, the only tech thing was the legs. Oh, and when she goes and gets tattooed. What was it that they tattooed on her leg?
They tattoo.
Strength?
She tattoos in very bold characters, nice big bold font,
What?
gauche and droite or something, left and right
Oh, left and right?
on her stumps. We'll be back. That was our first attempt at foreignfilmcast.com podcast. Pretty rough, but we can only improve from here. To let you know, obviously the website is foreignfilmcast.com. You can reach Trace at Trace700 at AOL.com. Paul at MasterPaul, F as in Frank, at gmail.com. and me, foreignfilmcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/theforeignfilmcast, Twitter as Foreign Filmcast, and we'll be working on iTunes shortly. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.